I'm Monica. I'm a clinical psychologist in Hong Kong and a divorce and recovery coach in the US. Today I wanted to talk a little bit to those people who might have found themselves, unfortunately, in an abusive situation. And people often say, well, why don't you just leave? Well, part of it is, well, one, do you understand what's happening? Do you understand that perhaps there's coercive control or emotional abuse? When people want to leave an abusive situation, they need a lot of support. One, the main reason is because it's scary to leave. Unfortunately, when people leave an abusive situation, that's when they're most at risk. That's when they're most likely to be harmed. So, first of all, let's talk about how people find themselves in abusive situations. And there can be many different avenues to get to this unfortunate spot, right? So, some people, unfortunately, grew up with a lot of chronic stress or chaos, neglect, or abuse. And when you grow up with abuse, or you grow up with trauma, you grow up with domestic violence, or you grow up with conflict, it can be really hard to step out of that chronic cycle. One, maybe that's your comfort zone, right? Maybe you don't even know that you've been abused. Maybe you don't recognize you're being abused now. It's just been the norm for you. And when people grow up with a lot of poverty or other unfortunate life circumstances, their brain starts to get wired for threat. They might be more hypervigilant. They might be more high conflict. So that could be one way, right? Is not understanding that you were abused, that this new situation is abusive. Coercive control can be challenging to recognize. And coercive control is when one person, the controlling person, does anything to keep this person under their thumb. And that could look like controlling the finances, stalking them, tapping their phone, monitoring their communications, monitoring their emails, setting up cameras. When this happens, it can be even scarier to leave because there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to hide, they're going to find you. Another way that people find themselves in abusive relationships is when, in the beginning, they get love bombed or they get charmed. They get placed on this really high pedestal. And over time, the emotional abuse begins. And that looks like backhanded compliments, verbal abuse, making fun of your religion, your identity, your culture, anything to make you feel less than. Anything to make you feel like you're not enough. And this way, the abuser can keep you as well. Because if you start to think like, well, I just want to get back to where our relationship was. I know this person deep down is good. I know they love me. I know that if I stick it out, they're going to change. And the reason for this is the emotional roller coaster. When the relationship is going well, it's going really, really well. And when it's going bad, it's horrible. So it's a little bit like a drug, right? You take the drug, you get high, you crash, and you need that drug again. These situations can also be really hard to detect. So if you can't tell you're in an abusive situation, how do you know you're in an abusive situation? Well, one is, do you feel like since you've been with your partner, your self-worth has continued to drop? Do you feel like you're scared to go out by yourself because they might be jealous or they might blow up your phone? Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells, trying to be perfect so this person loves you or doesn't leave you or doesn't harm you? Friends and family are also a good way to know. The most dangerous situation you can find yourself in is if your abuser has isolated you. They have started talking bad about your friends and family, and they get angry every time you see them. They don't want you spending time with others. This is the most dangerous situation for you to be in, is because they isolate you so you can't tell other people what's going on, so that no one can come save you, so that no one will hate this person and try and get you away. If you're in that situation, it's incredibly important you reach out for help. Another situation is if your friends and family tell you this person is bad, this person is bad, this person is bad, and your first instinct is to defend them. Your friends and family love you and they don't want you to be hurt. So if your friends and family are warning you, please listen. Take caution of those red flags. Now let's say you can recognize that you're in an abusive situation and you want out. And perhaps this has not exactly been a physically abusive relationship, so you're not worried for your life. That's a lot easier, right? But no matter what kind of abusive situation you're in, you need some kind of exit strategy, some kind of plan to make sure they're not going to harm you, they're not going to come after you. Sometimes some people might want to contact your work and do like a smear campaign, say bad things about you. You might want to talk to your HR department before you leave and warn them that you're leaving an abusive situation. Some of the tactics they might use against you are smear campaign, gaslighting, making you feel like you're the one with the problem. You're the one who has messed up. These are all ways for the victim or the survivor to feel like they're not enough, they're going crazy, they're wrong. And so it's a lot of the manipulation tactics that keep people in these abusive relationships. If you are in physical danger, your exit strategy needs to be a lot more complex. You know, sometimes it's okay to go to the police, but usually if there hasn't been any physical violence already or there isn't any evidence, it can be challenging. That being said, family attorneys in your area have a lot of strategies because they've found themselves helping domestic violence victims. So to keep safe, it might be a good idea to just drive or go into the family attorney's office so that your partner can't see any messages on the phone, what you're doing, where you've been, and see if the family attorneys can help, with the police, the sheriffs, restraining orders, domestic violence shelters, domestic violence hotlines. These are all resources for survivors to help them escape. So let's say you're out. You're free, but you feel this emptiness, this pain, this grief, this anger, this sadness from the abuse. A lot of times people feel like, why should I grieve this relationship? It was abusive, I got out. Well, grief is part of the process. Grief for the relationship you thought you had, grief for someone you love. At some point you probably fell deeply in love with this person. Grief for the life you thought you were going to have, the future, and if you have children, it's even more complicated. So people who have children in abusive situations have a hard time in court if the abuser keeps coming after them, because the abuse can continue through the court system. They might try to bankrupt you, take the kids away. These are times when you really need support, not only from your family attorney, but from a mental health professional. Because the mental health professional will help you to heal, help you to regain your self-worth, work through the shame, work through the grief, help you to be able to have a secure attachment with your children. A lot of times you want to disengage from the conflict, but you don't know how, and this person just keeps coming after you. So your attorney plus a mental health professional can be the best way to go. things you can do for yourself while going through this process to help you heal is practice self-compassion. You know, this abuser is like this big bully in your brain. It keeps getting you. You're not enough, look at you, you're fat, you're stupid, whatever it is. So the opposite side is self-compassion. Can you talk to yourself like someone you love? Like your children, your pets, your best friend? This self-compassion is what's going to help you to rebuild your life, to help you get back on track. Other things to help you get through this situation is hope. What's your hope for the future? What's your hope for yourself? What's your hope for your children? And can you remain optimistic that you're going to be able to pull this off? So if you are struggling with anything in this situation, please reach out. And if you know someone in this situation, help them. Don't judge them. Help them escape. If you need any other further information, feel free to DM me, email me, contact me. I'd love to help you. Remember, be kind to yourself and others.